Before we continue with the panel, maybe there are questions from the audience. Are there questions? Yes, please.
Hello, I'm Thomas from the Commission. I would like to ask for your name, sorry. Yes, to Mrs. Van Odassen. You're working in an evidence-based practice center. I hear lots of figures on the impact Alzheimer has on the family of people suffering. I've heard something like 7 years less of life for spouses of Alzheimer. Do you have evidence of that?
Evidence of the suffering?
The impact of the suffering of an Alzheimer patient with respect to the spouses and the near family. So that
yes.
You can demonstrate that Alzheimer impacts much more than just the Alzheimer patient.
Yes, the impact on the family is especially the burden. So they suffer directly from caring. But it's not only, I want to stress that it's not only that they suffer from it, a lot of them manage to do well, and we also have to look at that. We focus too much on problems, but we can learn a lot from people who are taking care for many years and doing well. But they have an increased risk of, a high burden, and especially on depression, which is really the worst disease you can get. So it's really, we have really to do something to save them. And often you hear that people are not taking care for each other, but this is really an example that people take care of other persons with huge disadvantages for their own life. And I'm happy that we developed a lot of psychosocial interventions for family caregivers, and that the last decade we found that more and more of them have been effective, especially in reducing depression. And we just published a Cochrane review on cognitive reframing, that is that you help people to think differently, so not to make a catastrophe of it, but to think in a more positive way, and that reduced the depression not only significantly, but it had also a middle large effect. So we can do a lot, and it's important, especially that practitioners know this, because another reason that there is no interest in dementia is that people feel, they think we can't do anything, so why bother, why making a diagnosis? And this is especially the case in general practitioners. And I don't think you have to make a diagnosis from the first moment, but when things are going terribly wrong, you shouldn't deny it anymore, and you can be helped. So I'm very much in favor, not so much of early diagnosis, but of timely diagnosis. And we can do a lot to help patients and their families.
Perhaps the question was also on a quantitative analysis. I mean, can we quantify what is the burden for the family? I think this would be important.
Yes, we can. We have validated scales and also scales that are able that are sensitive to change, so they can measure it. And several years ago, we wrote an article, Moniz Cook is the first author, on outcome measures, in which we validated which measures were appropriate, and especially which measures were sensitive to change, because when measures are not sensitive to change, you can't prove anything. But there's a lot of, you can quantify this, and social sciences did a good job in developing measures for the last 20 years. I think it's important,
very important. Yes, please.
I would like first to thank this very interesting panel, and I would like to ask Nita and Jean, are you going to present or to prepare a project like the very good model that Ben Whitman prepared for biomarkers for harmonization in all Europe, this program? Have you your minds to prepare a project about harmonization of psychosocial interventions in Europe? because as far as I know, every country does a different intervention and for different time and different scientists do the work. Have you in mind such a project?
I think that Morgan or Rainer could answer to this because they are working on the strategic group delivering this type of implementation of this research. Rainer, do you have any?
It's a little bit early to say that because we had our meeting in February, so it's not started right here. But I brought this down and we will discuss that in the working group. So yeah, okay.
So this is a good suggestion that
Yes.
we will take. Sure.
With regard to differences between countries, we develop quality indicators for psychosocial interventions, and they include the key elements of effective psychosocial interventions. And if you have these quality indicators, you don't need a complete intervention, but you can really focus on key points.